back to English Edu Claz, your favorite channel for exciting and educational videos. Today we have got something special and inspiring just for you, especially if you are in the third semester BCom or BBA programs at Bengaluru North University or Bangalore University. We are about to explore into the powerful and legendary speech called Never Give In by the one and only Winston S. Churchill. You might know him as a world leader, but his words are more than just politics. They are a timeless source of motivation and courage. In this long video session, I will guide you through the lesson by dividing each phrase, idiom or line from the speech. This speech is not just English lesson. It's the life lesson that will speak to you no matter where you are on your journey. If you need a boost of determination, Churchill's words will inspire you like never before. But wait, there's more. To make sure you get all the insights and the full experience, I strongly recommend you to watch this video till the very end. Trust me, you won't want to miss a single word. And here is your chance to be a part of English Edu Claz community. Hit the subscribe button and let us embark on this incredible journey together. Don't forget to like this video, share it with your friends, and leave a comment. We love hearing from you. Stay tuned for more exciting and inspiring videos on this English Edu Claz. So if you are ready to explore the wisdom of Winston Churchill, let us get started here. Friends, let us come to the agenda of this session. In this session, at the outset, let us know something about the author. Followed by that, let us know the historical significance of the speech. And then we shall have some brainstorming activity. Brief introduction to the lesson. Last, we have lesson analysis. Let us come to the author, Winston S. Churchill. Sir Winston Leonardo Spencer Churchill was a British statesman, orator, and author, a Prime Minister of the United Kingdom from 1940 to 1945, and again from 1951 to 1955. He was born on 30th November 1874 at Blenheim Palace, Oxfordshire, England, in a wealthy aristocratic family. His father, Lord Randolph Churchill, represented the Conservatives and had been elected as a Member of Parliament for Woodstock, while his mother, Janie, was a daughter of a wealthy American businessman. Churchill began boarding at St. George's School in Ascot, Berkshire, aged 7, but was academically poor. In 1884, he transferred to Brunswick School in Hove, where his academic performance improved. In 1888, aged around 13, he narrowly passed the entrance exam for Harrow School, where he was trying to join the military academy. In February 1885, Churchill was commissioned as a second lieutenant in the Queen's Own Cavalry Regiment of the British Army. Along with the regiment, Winston Churchill came to Bangalore in October 1896 as a young army officer and left 3 years there. In his book, My Early Life, he writes, "The climate of Bangalore, over 3,000 feet above the sea level, is excellent. The sun, even at midday, is temperate, and the mornings and evenings are fresh." He died in January 1865 at his London home. Winston Churchill, beside having an American mother, an act of Congress made Mr. Churchill an American citizen in 1963, so he is legally an American speaker. Friends, now let's come to the historical significance of the speech of Winston Churchill. Winston Churchill gave several inspirational speeches during World War II. However, events leading to the speech hinted at optimism concerning the outcome of the war. The United States started supplying vast amounts of war materials to the UK-led Lee's program in March 1941. Also, since Nazi Germany had invaded Yugoslavia and Greece earlier in the year and invaded Soviet Union in June 1941, Britain was no longer the target of the major efforts of Germany. On 29th October 1941, Sir Winston S. Churchill delivered one of his most famous speeches at Harrow School, Churchill's alma mater, in London. The speech was addressed during the time of Second World War, when Britain was going through a major crisis. Just 10 months before his speech, the United Kingdom engaged in an air battle with Nazi Germany, which had caused devastating loss to the country. Churchill motivates young students to leave the past behind and not heed to others' words. In his speech, Churchill also addressed the importance of never surrender to defeat and hopelessness, no matter how bleak the situation is or how overwhelmingly the mighty enemy is. Friends, now let us move to the brainstorming activity. In this, let me ask you 3 questions. The first question is, leadership and learning are indispensable to each other. Discuss. Second question is, you can't tell from appearances how things will go. Do you agree? Third question is, how do you remain hopeful during hard times? I believe you will discuss these questions with your friends. Now let's come to the brief introduction to the speech Never Giving by Winston S. Churchill. The speech Never Giving is an inspiring and uplifting speech. It emphasizes the importance of remaining strong and determined in the face of adversity and never giving in to fear or surrender. Churchill uses strong and powerful words and imagery to emphasize his message. He encourages the British people to remain defiant and never give in to their enemies. The speech is also a reminder of the courage and strength of the British people and how it has helped them overcome difficult times in the past. It creates a thoughtful tone for the citizens of Britain. Now let's come to the lesson explanation and analysis. I will choose each and every paragraph in the lesson and explain line by line. Now let's jump into the first and foremost extract from the speech. Almost a year has passed since I came down here at your headmaster's kind invitation in order to cheer myself and cheer the hearts of a few of my friends by singing some of our own songs. In this part of the speech, Churchill establishes a personal connection with the audience at Harrow School, emphasizing the shared experience of facing challenges and seeking inspiration. Churchill begins by acknowledging that nearly a year has gone by since his previous visit to Harrow School. This sets the historical context for his speech and emphasizes the passage of time. Let us come to another phrase. I came down here at your headmaster's kind invitation. In this line, Churchill mentions that he visited Harrow School at the invitation of the headmaster, signifying that he was there as a guest. This establishes the formal and respectful nature of his presence at the school. Let us come to another phrase. In order to cheer myself and cheer the hearts of a few of my friends. In this phrase, Churchill reveals the purpose of his visit. He wanted to boost his spirits and bring joy to the hearts of his friends. He came to the school not only for official or political reasons, but also for personal reasons. This humanized Churchill and showed that even leaders like him needed moments of inspiration and encouragement. By singing some of our songs, this phrase signifies that it is a metaphorical phrase. Churchill did not sing songs, but rather intended to share his thoughts, experiences, wisdom with the audience. The songs here in this line suggest or symbolizes the ideas, values, and determination that he and his friends possessed. By sharing these metaphorical songs, he aims to inspire and uplift the spirit of those present. Thus, the speech as a whole encourages the audience never to give in, even at the face of adversity. The 10 months that have passed have seen very terrible catastrophic events in the world, ups and downs, misfortunes. In this portion of the speech, Churchill set the stage for his message of resilience and determination. He wants to remind his audience that the world has faced tremendous challenges and setbacks in the past 10 months. But despite these hardships, the spirit of resolve and the will to persevere must prevail. Let us come to the understanding of this part of the text in detail. There is a phrase, the 10 months that have passed. In this one, Churchill begins by emphasizing a specific time frame, which is the 10 months leading up to his speech. By doing so, he highlights the recentness of the events he is about to discuss, creating a sense of immediacy for the audience. There is another phrase, have seen very terrible catastrophic events in the world. In this part of the statement, Churchill acknowledges the gravity of the global events that had taken place during those 10 months. He characterizes them as very terrible catastrophic. Here catastrophic means disastrous events, which convey the idea that the world had experienced severe and devastating crisis. This could be a reference to the ongoing Second World War and its various battles and tragedies. There is a phrase, ups and downs, misfortunes. Churchill uses these phrases to describe the fluctuations and difficulties that the world had encountered. Ups and downs simply a series of both positive and negative developments, suggesting a roller coaster of circumstances. Misfortune underscores the unfortunate and adverse situations that had arisen. By acknowledging the terrible catastrophic events and the ups and downs, he is essentially saying that difficult times are an inherent part of the history. And it is precisely during such times that the need to never give in becomes the most important. Come to the next extract. But can anyone sitting here this afternoon, this October afternoon, not feel deeply thankful for what has happened in the time that has passed and for the very great improvement in the position of our country and our home? In this statement, Churchill is aiming to uplift the spirits of the audience and instill a sense of pride and appreciation. He wants them to recognize and be thankful for the progress made even in the face of the challenges and sacrifices of Second World War. Let us come to the phrase, but can anyone sitting here this afternoon? Churchill begins by addressing the audience directly, emphasizing their presence at that moment. By doing so, he engages them personally and draws their attention to the importance of what he is about to discuss. The October afternoon. In this phrase, he specifies the month and the time of the day, that is October afternoon. Churchill is providing the concrete setting for his speech. This helps the audience connect with the current moment and brings a sense of immediacy to his message. There is another phrase, not feel deeply thankful for what has happened in the time that has passed. Churchill uses the phrase deeply thankful to emphasize a strong sense of gratitude he believes the audience should feel. He wants them to consider the positive changes and events that have transpired in the recent past and to recognize the significance of these developments. Let's come to another phrase. And for the very great improvement in the position of our country and of our home. Here, Churchill then specifies the reasons for his gratitude. He points out that there has been a very great improvement in the situation of both the country and the personal lives of the individual present. This improvement likely refers to the positive developments in the war effort and perhaps signs of progress or hope on the home front. Thus, it is a call to unity, resolve and resilience, aligning with the overall message of this speech, never giving. By acknowledging the improvements and expressing gratitude, Churchill seeks to motivate the audience to continue their efforts with determination and positivism. Why? When I was here last time, we were quite alone, desperately alone, and we had been so for 5 or 6 months. We were poorly armed. We are not so poorly armed today, but then we were poorly armed. In this part of the speech, Churchill contrasts two different periods to illustrate the evolution of the situation during Second World War. He highlights the significant challenges and hardships faced earlier in the war and the subsequent improvements in the nation's readiness. Here is an explanation of this statement within the context of the speech. Let us come to the phrase, why when I was here last time we were quite alone, desperately alone. Let us understand this one. Churchill begins by referring to his previous visit to the school, during which he likely addressed similar themes. He recalls that the United Kingdom and its allies faced a dire situation. They were isolated, desperately alone in their fight against the Axis powers. This phrase emphasizes the sense of isolation and vulnerability experienced during the early stages of the war. Let's come to another phrase. And we had been so for 5 or 6 months. In this phrase, Churchill adds a temporary dimension to his description. He mentions that isolation and desperation lasted for 5 or 6 months, emphasizing the prolonged nature of the challenges faced by the country. This time frame likely refers to the period before the entry of the United States into the war. Let us come to another phrase. We were poorly armed. Churchill then highlights a key aspect of the challenges they faced during that time. Lack of adequate inadequate weaponry and military resources. The phrase poorly armed underscores the inadequacy of the country's military preparedness and resources during that earlier period of the war. Let's come to another phrase. We are not so poorly armed today, but then we were very poorly armed. Churchill contrasts the situation during his previous visit with the current situation. He acknowledges that while the country may still face challenges, it is far better equipped and prepared today compared to the earlier period. The repetition of poorly armed emphasizes the contrast and improvement in the nation's military capabilities. In this part of the speech, Churchill is using historical context to underscore the importance of resilience, determination, and never giving. He wants to remind the audience that despite the dire circumstances faced earlier in the war, the nation had endured and made significant progress in terms of military preparedness. Let us come to the next passage. We had the unmeasured menace of the enemy and their air attacks still beating upon us, and you yourselves had experience of this attack. And I expect you are beginning to feel impatient that there has been this long lull with nothing particular happening up. In this part of the speech, Churchill is addressing the audience's concerns and anxieties directly. He acknowledges the constant threat posed by the enemy and the frustration that can arise during the periods of apparent stagnation in the war. Here is an explanation of this statement within the context of the speech. Let us come to the phrase, we had the unmeasured menace. In this part of the phrase, Churchill emphasizes the looming and indefinite threat posed by the enemy. In the term unmeasured menace suggests threat or danger. The unmeasured menace suggests that the full extent of the enemy's threat cannot be accurately gauged or predicted, creating a sense of unease and uncertainty. Come to the phrase, and their air attacks still beating upon us. Churchill specifically mentions the enemy's air attacks, which were a significant threat during Second World War, particularly during the Battle of Britain. The phrase still beating upon them shows that these air attacks were ongoing and relentless. You yourself had experienced this attack. In this phrase, Churchill reminds the audience that they, like the rest of the nation, had personally experienced the horrors of enemy air attacks. This adds a personal and relatable dimension to such speech, as it emphasizes that the audience has endured the same hardships as others in the country. Come to another phrase. I expect you are beginning to feel impatient that there has been this long lull with nothing particular turning up. In this part of the line, Churchill anticipates feelings of impatience among the audience. He acknowledges that the audience might be wondering why there hasn't been any significant positive development or breakthrough in the ongoing war efforts. The term long lull suggests a period of relative calm and inactivity compared to the intensity of previous events. Here, in this part of the passage, we come to know that the Britishers are better at being long, and let us read this passage. But we must learn to be equally good at what is short and what is long and tough. It is generally said that the Britishers are often better at the last. Let us understand this one. In this part of the speech, Churchill addresses the need for adaptability and versatility in facing challenges, and he offers a perspective on the British character. Here is an explanation of the statement in the context of speech. There is a line called, but we must learn to be equally good what is short and what is long. And Churchill begins by emphasizing the importance of being proficient in both short, decisive action and long, enduring struggles. He suggests that to succeed in overcoming challenges, individuals and nations must be adaptable and capable of handling different types of situations effectively. It is generally said that the British are often better at the last. Churchill acknowledges a previous perception that the Britishers excel in situations that require endurance and toughness over an extended period. He is referring to the historical resilience of the British people, particularly during the times of crisis. There is a line called, Britishers are better at being long and tough. Churchill makes a clear statement that the British British have a reputation for enduring hardships and maintaining their resolve over the long term. In this part of the speech, Churchill is encouraging the audience to develop a well-rounded approach to tackling challenges. He suggests that while the British may excel in long and tough situations, it is equally important to be effective in short, sharp actions. This adaptability and versatility are crucial in wartime and life in general. They do not expect move from crisis to crisis. They do not always expect that each day will bring up some notable chance of war. But when they very slowly make up their minds that the thing has to be done and the job put through and finished, then even if it makes months, if it takes years, they do it. In this part of the speech, Churchill highlights the British character and approach to facing challenges and crises. Here is an explanation of this statement in the context of the speech. Let's come to the phrase, they do not expect to move from crisis to crisis. Here, in these words, Churchill emphasizes that the British people do not anticipate a constant series of crises or dramatic events. This suggests that they do not seek or glorify conflict but are prepared to respond when necessary. Let us come to the line. They do not always expect that each day will bring some noble chance of war. Here, Churchill acknowledges that the British do not wake up each day expecting grand opportunities for heroic acts of war. This implies a sense of realism and pragmatism in their approach to conflict. Let's come to the line. But when they very slowly make up their minds that the thing has to be done, the job put through and finished. Here in this line, Churchill describes the British approach to decision making and commitment. He emphasizes that when the British people carefully consider a task or objective and are convinced that it must be accomplished, they commit themselves fully to seeing it through to completion. Come to the next line. Then, even if it takes months, if it takes years, they do it. In this line, Churchill underscores the determination and patience of the British character. He suggests that once the decision is made to tackle a task, they are willing to invest the necessary time, whether it is a matter of months or even years, to achieve their goals. This long-term commitment is a hallmark of their resolve. Thus, in this part of the speech, Churchill is praising the British approach to problem solving, their willingness to persevere in the face of challenges. He highlights their ability to take deliberate and considered action when necessary without rushing into conflicts or expecting constant heroic opportunities. This measured and resolute approach is what he believes makes the British people capable of achieving great things, even when the path is long and difficult. Churchill mentions here another lesson you may find in an examination question like Churchill's views on imagination. From here onwards, we will discuss about. Another lesson I think we may take, just throwing our minds back to our meeting here 10 months ago and now, is that appearances are often very deceptive. In this part of the speech, Churchill emphasizes the importance of not being misled by appearances. The need to recognize the circumstances can change dramatically over the time. Here is an explanation of this statement in the context of the speech. The phrase, another lesson I think we may take. In this phrase, Churchill begins by suggesting that there is a lesson to be learned or valuable insight to be gained from the comparison he is about to make. He is drawing attention to the ideas that something significant has changed or become apparent. Come to the next line. Just throwing our minds back, our meeting here 10 months ago and now. In this line, Churchill reminds the audience to reflect on the passage of time, events that have occurred in the 10 months since his previous visit to Harrow School. By referring to the previous meeting, he is establishing a clear before and after perspective. Is that appearances are often very deceptive. Churchill's central point is that what appears to be true or significant is at one point in time can be misleading or not entirely representative of the full picture. He cautions against making judgments solely based on on surface level appearances or immediate circumstances. Thus, in this part of the speech, Churchill is encouraging the audience to think critically and avoid sudden judgments. By referring to the 10 months since the last visit, he is highlighting how rapidly circumstances can change, especially during times of war. What might seem like a dire situation at one point can develop and opportunities or improvements can emerge. And as Kipling well says, we must meet with the triumph and disaster and treat those two impostors just the same. The statement is a reference to the poem If by Rudyard Kipling. Winston Churchill quotes this line from Kipling's poem to convey an important message about resilience and perseverance. Here is an explanation of this statement. And as Kipling well says, Churchill attributes the idea he is about to express to Rudyard Kipling, recognizing the wisdom in Kipling's words. Come to the words. We must meet with triumph and disaster. Churchill quotes a line from Kipling's poem If, which speaks of the idea that one must challenge both success or triumph and failure or disasters in life. Come to the phrase, and treat those two impostors just the same. It means that one should not allow either success or failure to unduly affect their attitude or character. Instead, they should remain level-headed and steadfast in the face of both triumph and disaster, recognizing that both can be fleeting and deceptive. Thus, in this part of the speech, Churchill is emphasizing the importance of maintaining equanimity and resilience in the face of life's ups and downs. He is urging the audience, particularly the students at Arrow School, not to be overly delighted by success or devastated by failures. Instead, he advises them to approach both with a sense of balance and composure. You cannot tell from appearances how things will go. Sometimes imagination makes things out far worse than they are. Yet, without imagination, not much can be done. Here is an explanation for this statement. In this statement, we have a phrase called, you cannot tell from appearances how things will go. Churchill, in these words, emphasizes the appearances can deceive and one should not rely solely on surface level observations to judge the outcome of a situation. In times of crisis, it is essential not to jump to conclusions based solely on what can be seen at a glance. Come to the phrase, sometimes imagination makes things out far worse than they are. Churchill in these words acknowledges that the human imagination can sometimes magnify problems or difficulties, making them seem much worse than they are. This tendency to catastrophize or imagine the worst case scenario can create unnecessary fear and anxiety. Let us come to another phrase. Yet without imagination, not much can be done. In contrast to the previous point, Churchill highlights the value of imagination. He suggests that while imagination can sometimes exaggerate problems, it is also a necessary tool for envisioning solutions, devising strategies, and inspiring actions. Without imagination and creative thinking, progress and problem solving become limited. Thus, in this part of the speech, Churchill is cautioning against both unwarranted pessimism and a lack of creative thinking. He is encouraging the audience to balance realistic assessment and a creative imagination. In times of crisis or when facing challenges, it is essential not to be paralyzed by fear or negative thinking. One should harness their imagination and creativity to find innovative solutions and maintain hope. Those people who are imaginative see many more dangers than perhaps exist. Certainly many more than will happen, but then they must also pray to be given that extra courage to carry this far-reaching imagination. Here is an explanation of this statement. Let us come to the line. Those people who are imaginative see many more dangers than perhaps exist. In these words, Churchill acknowledges that individuals with a vivid imagination envision and expect a multitude of potential dangers or problems. They foresee challenges and difficulties often more than what is realistically probable. Let us come to the phrase, certainly many more than will happen. In these words, Churchill emphasizes the dangers pursued by imaginative individuals are often exaggerated and unlikely to materialize in reality. Imagination can lead to a highlighted sense of risk that is not always justified by the facts. Let us come to the line. But then they must also pray to be given that extra courage to carry this far-reaching imagination. Churchill's key point is that while imagination can make individuals more aware of potential threats, it can also be emotionally taxing. Those with vivid imagination may need an extra dose of courage to face the challenges they envision. He suggests that courage is required to act upon those imaginations and confront the difficulties they experience. Thus, in this statement, Churchill highlighted the dual nature of the imagination. While rich imagination can be a valuable tool for identifying and preparing for potential challenges, it can also lead to unnecessary anxiety and fear if not balanced with courage. He acknowledges that imaginative people may need to muster extra courage to challenge the exaggerated fears their imagination may generate. Here he makes a closing remark. But for everyone, surely what we have gone through in this period, I am addressing myself to the school. Surely from this period of 10 months, this is the lesson. Here is an explanation of this statement. In this statement, there is a phrase, but for everyone, surely. In these words, Churchill is emphasizing that the lesson he is about to convey is relevant to everyone, not just the students at Harrow School. He wants to underscore the universality of the message he is about to deliver. Come to the next phrase. What we have gone through in this period. In these words, Churchill refers to the collective experience and challenges that both the nation and the school community have faced during the past 10 months. He is alluding to the difficulties and uncertainties of war. Come to the next phrase. I am addressing myself to the school. Churchill makes it clear that he is directing his words specifically to the students and staff at Harrow School. He is tailoring the message to his audience, likely to impart wisdom and guidance to the younger generation. Let us come to the next phrase. Surely from this period of 10 months, this is the lesson. Here, Churchill emphasizes that the past 10 months have provided a valuable lesson, a key takeaway that he believes everyone should grasp. Thus, in this part of the speech, Churchill is about to deliver the primary lesson he believes should be learned from the recent challenging experience. Never give in, never give in, never, 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 never. In nothing great or small, large or petty, never giving, except to conviction of honor and good sense. Never yield to force, never yield to the apparent overwhelming might of the enemy. Here is an explanation of this statement. Let us come to the explanation of the phrase never give in. Churchill begins with a powerful and direct statement, repeating the phrase for emphasis. He is unequivocally urging his audience and by extension the entire nation to never surrender, no matter how challenging the circumstances may become. Let's come to another line. Never, 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 never. In nothing great or small, large or petty, never giving. In these words, Churchill further reinforces the message by repeating never 4 times and emphasizing that his principal appeal to all the situation regardless of their scale or significance. Whether the challenge is great or small, one should not give in. Let us come to the line. Except to convictions of honor and good sense. Here convictions means belief or view. These lines in total means Churchill tempers his call for unwavering determination by specifying the conditions under which giving in is acceptable. He suggests that one should yield only when it aligns with the principles of honor and good judgment. This implies that giving in to dishonorable or irrational demands is not justified. Come to the phrase, never yield to force. Churchill highlights the importance of not succumbing to coercion or pressure, whether it be external or internal. Yielding to force can compromise one's integrity and principles. Let's come to the line. Never yield to the apparently overwhelming might of the enemy. In this line, overwhelmingly means massive or very strong. Let us come to the meaning of this entire phrase. Churchill acknowledges that the enmity may seem overwhelmingly or strong, powerful, but he insists that even in the face of such daunting odds, one should not give in. This is a call to maintain courage and defiance even when the situation appears dire. Thus, in this statement, Churchill delivers a resounding message of resilience and fortitude. He encourages his audience to maintain unwavering determination and to persevere through the darkest of times. The repetition of never emphasizes the absolute commitment required to face difficulty with underlying resolve. Churchill's message is about the indomitable spirit of the British people and their refusal to surrender to tyranny and oppression during Second World War. We stood all alone a year ago, and to many countries it seemed that our account was closed. We were finished. This tradition of ours, our songs, our school history, this part of the history of this country were gone and finished and liquidated. Here is an explanation of this extract. Let us come to the words "we stood all alone a year ago." In this phrase, Churchill is referring to the early months of the war when, after the fall of France in 1940, the United Kingdom found itself isolated and facing the Axis powers without the immediate support of major allies. The phrase "stood all alone" conveys a sense of isolation and vulnerability. Let us come to the line. And so far, and to many countries, it seemed that our account was closed, we were finished. Churchill acknowledges that to many countries, the United Kingdom was on the verge of defeat and that its role in the war was nearly over. The phrase "our account was closed" suggests that the UK was perceived as having little hope of surviving the conflict. Let us come to the line. All this tradition of ours, our songs, our school history, this part of the history and this country were gone and finished and liquidated. Well, in this extract, liquidated means dissolved or wiped out. In total, in these lines, Churchill laments the potential loss of the rich traditions and history of the United Kingdom, which were at risk because of the dire circumstances. He implies that the continuation of the nation's heritage, including songs and history represented by institutions like Harrow School, was in jeopardy and could be erased by the war. Thus, in this extract, Churchill paints a bleak picture of the early days of the war, emphasizing the sense of isolation and the perceived hopelessness of the British situation. He reminds the audience, particularly the students at Harrow School, of the gravity of the moment and the potential loss of the nation's historical and cultural heritage. Very different is the mood today. Britain, other nations thought, had drawn a sponge across the slate, but instead our country stood in the gap. Here is an explanation of this extract. Very different is the mood today. In this phrase, Churchill begins by highlighting the significant change in the prevailing mood or atmosphere compared to the earlier period he described in the previous extract. He is about to describe a more optimistic and determined mood. Let us come to the words. Britain, other nations thought, had drawn a sponge across her slate. In these words, Churchill references the perception held by other nations that Britain had wiped its slate clean or given up in the face of the adversity. Literally meaning, erase a name on the slate with a sponge. And here it extends to mean completely destroyed or completely wiped out. This suggests that some believed Britain had resigned itself to defeat and surrender. Come to the words. But instead, our country stood in the gap. This phrase means remain strong and defiant oneself. In contrast to the belief that Britain had capitulated, Churchill proudly declared that his country did not surrender. Instead, it took a courageous stance. The phrase "stood in the gap" conveys the idea that Britain stepped forward to face the enemy and defend its values. Thus, in this part of the speech, Churchill is emphasizing the change in the national mood and the determination that had replaced earlier perceptions of surrender. He is conveying that, contrary to the perceptions of others, Britain had not given up or wiped up the slate clean. Instead, he confronted challenges head on to defend its position. There was no flinching and no thought of giving in, and by what seemed almost a miracle to those outside these islands, though we ourselves never doubted it, we now found ourselves in a position where I say that we can be sure that we have only to persevere to conquer. In this extract, there is a line called, there was no flinching and no thought of giving in. Here flinching means shrinking or turning away. Well, Churchill condemns the unwavering resolve of the British people during a challenging time. He emphasizes that despite the difficulties and dangers they faced, there was no hesitation or consideration of surrender. The people were resolute and determined to persevere. Let us come to the line. By what seemed almost a miracle to those outside these islands, though we ourselves never doubted it. Well, in this line, Churchill acknowledges that to observers from other countries, the British people's determination and resilience may have appeared almost miraculous. However, he asserts that the British never doubted their ability to endure and prevail. Let's come to the line. We now found ourselves in a position, what I say, that we can be sure that we have only to persevere and conquer. In these lines, Churchill is expressing a confidence in the country. In these lines, Churchill is expressing confidence in the current state of affairs. He believes that though their perseverance and determination, in these lines, Churchill is expressing confidence in the current state of affairs. He believes that through their perseverance and determination, the British are now in a position where they can be certain of eventual victory. This reflects his optimism and faith in the British spirit. In this part of the speech, Churchill is celebrating the unwavering commitment of the British people to their cause during the challenging period of the war. He underscores that their determination combined with their refusal to give in has brought them to a point where they can confidently expect victory. It is a testament to the resilience and indomitable spirit of the British nation. You sang here a verse of a school song. You sang that extra verse written in my honor, which I was very greatly complimented by and which you have repeated today. In this part of the speech, Winston Churchill is referring to a verse from a school song that was sung at Harrow School. This verse was written in his honor and is expressing his gratitude and appreciation for this gesture. Here is an explanation of this statement he makes. You sang here a verse of a school song. Churchill is addressing the audience, particularly the students and staff at Harrow School. He acknowledges that they sang a particular verse of the school song during his visit. Come to the line. You sang that extra verse written in my honor. Churchill refers to a special verse of the school song that was composed specially in his honor. This verse was a form of a tribute to him and it was included in the school song for the occasion. Come to the line. Which I was very greatly complimented by. Churchill expresses his appreciation and gratitude for the verse that was written as a compliment to him. He takes this verse as a high honor and a mark of respect from the school community. Let us come to the words, and which you have repeated today. Churchill notes that the verse was sung again during his current visit at Harrow School, implying that the statement and respect. Churchill notes that the verse was sung again during his current visit at Harrow School, implying that the sentiment and respect is expressed by and which you have repeated today. In these words, Churchill notes that the verse was sung again during his current visit at Harrow School, implying that the sentiment and respect expressed in verse remain unchanged and are being reaffirmed. In this part of the speech, Churchill takes a moment to acknowledge the special gesture made by Harrow School in composing and singing a verse of their school song in his honor. He views this act as a mark of esteem and respect, and he appreciates the sentiment behind it. But there is one word in it I wanted to alter. I wanted to do so last year, but I did not venture to. It is the line, not less we praise in the darker days. In this part of Winston Churchill's speech, Churchill mentions a specific word in the verse of the school song that he wishes to alter. Here is an explanation of this statement. But there is one word in it I want to alter. In these words, Churchill begins by indicating that there is a single word in the school's verse song that he wishes to change or amend. There is another line. I wanted to do so last year, but I did not venture to. In these words, Churchill explains that this desire to alter the word is not new. He had considered making the change the previous year. However, he did not take the initiative at that time. Let us come to the phrase. It is the line, not less we prize in the darker days. Churchill specifies the line in the verse that contains the word he wishes to alter. The line currently reads, not less we prize in darker days. Thus, in this part of the speech, Churchill discusses a minor modification he wishes to make to the school song's verse. He does not explicitly state which word he wants to change, but he indicates that it relates to the line about pricing on darker days. I have obtained the headmaster's permission to alter the darker to sterner. Not less we prize in the sterner days. Let me explain this extra. Here, sterner word means harder, harsher, tougher. In this part of the speech, Churchill reveals that he has got permission from the headmaster to alter the school song's verse. Especially, he wants to replace the word darker with sterner. Here is an explanation of this statement. Let us come to the words. I have obtained the headmaster's permission. In these words, Churchill announces that he has secured the approval from the headmaster of the Harrow School to make the alteration he had mentioned earlier. Come to the word to alter darker to sterner. Churchill specifies the change he wishes to make. He wants to replace the word darker with sterner in the line of the school song. Let us come to the phrase, not less we prize in the sterner days. He then presents a changed line with the word sterner in place of the darker. The altered line now reads, not less we prize in sterner days. Thus, in this part of the speech, Churchill reveals that he has successfully made the alteration he desired to the school's song verse. He replaces the word darker with sterner. He likely intends to convey the sense of resolve and determination. Stern implies a more rigorous and unyielding quality, which aligns with the Churchill's overall message of resilience and steadfastness in challenging times. Do not let us speak of darker days. Let us speak rather of sterner days. These are not dark days. These are great days. The greatest days of our country has ever lived. In this part of the speech, Churchill encourages the audience to shift their perspective from seeing the times as darker days to sterner days. He declares that the present days are not dark but great, the greatest in the country's history. Before speaking, Churchill discovered that the students had added the verse to one of the school songs. Here is an explanation of the statement made by Churchill. Do not let us speak of darker days. Let us speak of rather sterner days. Churchill begins by urging the audience to change their language and mindset. He suggests that instead of referring to the current times as darker days, they should use the term sterner days. This shift in language implies a greater emphasis on strength, determination, and resilience in the face of challenges. There are words like, these are not dark days, these are great days. In this phrase, Churchill states that the present day should not be characterized by dark. Let us come to the phrase, these are not dark days, these are great days. Let us come to the explanation of this phrase. Churchill here emphatically says that the present day should not be characterized as dark. Instead, he insists that they are great days. He wants to emphasize the extraordinary nature of the times. Let us come to the words, the greatest days our country has ever lived. In this phrase, Churchill goes even further by asserting that the current days are not just great, but the greatest in the country's history. This statement underscores the significance of the challenges faced during Second World War and the opportunities for heroism, sacrifice, and achievement. Thus, in this part of the speech, Churchill is engaging in rhetorical and motivational framing. He recognizes the audience may perceive the times as dark and challenging because of the ongoing war. However, he aims to inspire and uplift them by reframing the situation. By describing the times as sterner days and great days, he encourages the audience to see them as opportunities for their finest efforts and achievements. And we must all thank God that we have been allowed, each of us according to our stations, to play a part in making these days memorable in the history of our race. In this part, Winston Churchill expresses gratitude and sense of privilege. He encourages everyone to thank God for the opportunity according to their respective roles and positions to contribute to the significance of the time. Here is an explanation of this statement with reference to the context. There is a phrase called, "and we must all thank God." In this phrase, Churchill emphasizes the importance of gratitude. He suggests that it is a collective duty for everyone to express thanks. There is a phrase called "that we have been allowed." In these words, Churchill acknowledges that the opportunity to play a part in the events of the time is not taken for granted. He frames it as a privilege and something granted to him. There is a phrase called "each of us according to our nation." In this phrase, Churchill recognizes that the people have different roles and positions in society and their contributions may vary. He implies each individual should be grateful for the role they can play based on their circumstances. There is a line, "to play a part in making these days memorable in the history of our race." Churchill emphasizes that the collective efforts of the individuals, regardless of their roles, have the power to make the current days memorable in the broader history of humanity. He is highlighting the historical significance of their actions during the critical period, which is World War II. Thus, in this part of the speech, Churchill is fostering sense of unity and shared purposes among his audience. He wants them to recognize that their collective efforts, no matter how small or large, contribute to the historical significance of times. By invoking gratitude and the notion they have been allowed to participate in the historic moment, he underscores the importance of their contribution and encourages a sense of duty and pride in their roles. Thank you for watching this video. Hope to see you in the next video.